Ever since I was a child, people said my family was cursed. Mom tried to protect us with God. Pop tried to protect us with wrestling. He said if we were the toughest, the strongest, nothing could ever hurt us. I believed him. We all did.
Morning.
Pants tomorrow, please, David.
Perry, I want you to join your brothers in the ring.
Yes, sir. I love that.
Now, we all know Kerry's my favorite, then Kev, then David, then Mike. But the rankings can always change.
What do you want in life, Kevin Von Erich?
More ribs?
I want to be with my family. You know, be with my brothers.
What do you like to do with your brothers?
Together, we can do anything.
We're here to restore justice to the Wrestling Federation that our father built with his own two hands. The hands that were passed down to us. The hands that will deliver the Iron Claw to you.
So what do you think? Like we're alive.
I love your family, Kevin.
You gonna be an uncle?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, that makes me so happy.
I'll talk to you about something, Mom. Dad's too tough on us. You gotta say something.
Baby, that's what your brothers are for.
Feel that? You feel that? That's pressure.
You're pushing too hard.
I'm fine, kid. Seriously, I'm just sick.
I'm scared, man. It all out of control.
That's a terrible accident.
I should have stopped him. I need to think about my family.
Your job is to wrestle. Live up to that deal, or we are through.
I told you to look out for him!
I just love being out there with you guys. It's the only thing that matters to me.
The Bonner will forever be the greatest family in the history of wrestling.
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Table Podcast with your boy Michael Carter, and it's great, as always, to be back. Today we're talking a movie, talking a really tough movie, and I got two other people along here side of me. I got Jadon Nichols. Welcome back, Jadon, to the table. What's up, bro? How you doing?
I'm great. Happy to be back.
Good. And today we have a new person coming to the table. His name is Jared Freeman. Jared, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, bro. Thanks for asking me to come on the podcast today. I'm excited.
Yep. I asked Jared literally an hour before starting to record this. I was like, hey, you want to jump on and talk about this movie? He said, yeah. So I was like, cool. Bet.
Yep.
Jared, tell some people about yourself. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do for fun? Like, what do you work? Where do you work? Like, who's
Sure.
Jared Freeman? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, I went to college in BG, so that's where I met Mike. That's where I met Jadon as well. And I grew up in Toledo, and that's also where I work too. So I'm a sales supervisor at a company called AA Solutions. We sell a few different products to a couple different industries. So I train and work with some interns and some part-time and full-time sales reps and just kind of help them out. So it's a good gig. I've been there since college. Outside of that, I do a lot of music stuff. That's where Mike and I became friends, men's chorus and 1040 and some other stuff too, church groups, things like that. But I still do that stuff. I love to do musicals, so I do a bunch of musicals. I did 3 last year. Big tennis player too, so I played tennis throughout the year, multiple leagues, all that good stuff. So it's a good time. I'm a big movie buff too. That's something I've always done my entire life. I'm an old movie soul kind of as well. That's how I connected with my dad as well. So I have my dad to thank for that. We have always watched movies together, and so he kind of showed me the ropes. Probably a little bit too young to watch a lot of the movies. My mom was always kind of mad at some of the movies he let me watch, but hey, I turned out okay, I guess.
There you go. Yeah. Off the top of your head, favorite movie?
Ooh. Top of my head, I love the movie Good Will Hunting.
Good Will
I'm
Hunting.
gonna have to go. That's just what came to my mind right now. I fluctuate all the time.
Yep.
If you're gonna go action movie, like my favorite action movie of all time is probably Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones,
Okay.
or
Good
Casino Royale, first Daniel Craig James Bond movie.
Yes. Solitude. Jaden, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, it's Jurassic Park, bro.
Yes, I knew that. The first one, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Dude, the first Jurassic Park, iconic.
The music, man, that music's what gets me in that movie.
Everything about it.
Is that John Williams?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's John Williams. Legend. That man ain't gonna never retire. Love you, John. Love you. Sick. Glad you're on here, Jared. Glad you're on here, Jaden. Let's get into it, man. We're talking a tough movie today. The Iron Claw. It's been getting rave reviews since it hit theaters in December. Stars Zac Efron. I think he's the main name in the movie. Directed by Sean Durkin. Iron Claws. It's heavy. It's a heavy movie. For those of you that don't know, it's a movie about a wrestling family, the Von Erich family. They're wrestling. It's about three brothers that wrestle, and it's a tough watch. Off the back, Jared, we can start with you. What did you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, like you said, it was a tough movie to watch. I didn't know much about the story beforehand. I'm not huge into wrestling. I mean, my biggest, I guess, knowledge of wrestling is just from WWE recently, as well as watching Rocky 3, for example, with Hulk Hogan and that whole kind of craze. That's kind of all I know about Rocky, or all I know about wrestling, I should say. So I wasn't really like huge into the story, but holy crap! I mean, it really threw me for a loop. I mean, it was just a tough watch. I knew that somebody was dying in the movie, but I didn't quite expect the amount of death and sadness in the movie. And just outside of that, I mean, the relationship, the family relationship dynamic was really what drew me the most to the movie. And honestly, the father, how just kind of, I don't even know what the word is with the father. Like he loved his sons, but the way that he went about it was so much pressure and so much. He was willing to sacrifice his son's mental health for the love of wrestling and for getting the ring or whatever it was that he was trying to get. The world championship, I think, is what it was. He was so committed to that it affected his family dynamic to the point where we had multiple suicides and just huge amounts of pressure. And it kind of it was a big lesson for me, at least when I grew up and when I become a father, and if I have sons. Like, I mean, this movie really threw me for a loop, and to make sure that I'm not falling into some of these traps that you can fall into with wanting your sons or wanting your children to grow up a certain way. And just you need to be careful of how you're doing that in terms of parenting.
Yeah. Jaden, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not a wrestling fan at all. But two things I'm a fan of are Zac Efron and A24. And so when I saw this, it was like a no-brainer. I'm gonna go see that. But yeah, I didn't look up anything about this. Unlike you, Jared, I didn't even know there was death in it, and then I'm just getting rocked again and again and again. And then the one brother, what's his name? Carrie. Then Carrie loses his leg, and I'm like, what the frick's going on? But yeah, when I was thinking through it, like I was also thinking through like the relationship of a father and a son. And I've got two brothers too, so that clicked too. It made me think about all the cool times I had with my brothers when we were doing stuff together. But yeah, the father-son dynamic and just the idea that you want your kids to have it better than you did, like taken to the max extreme, was what this story is. So I found that really interesting, and it made me go watch, I think it was a Vice documentary that Kevin Von Erich did, talking about their story and their whole process. So it was kind of cool to hear from his angle of like the real guy, compared to the story. And it was like the actual story is actually sadder than the movie was, which is wild to me. And they were like, yeah, let's leave some of this out just because I don't know if audiences can handle it, which they probably were right, to be honest. But I loved it. I loved every part of it. The editing was great, music, acting, all of it. The pacing of it was phenomenal too. Like one of the best paced movies. And I had it ranked number 1 from last year. That was my favorite movie of all 2023.
Yeah, and it ended up being it was top 3. I think it was number 3 for me. But yeah, y'all said it all. But the movie is it's just nuts. It's just, it hits you, hit after hit. You think you're done and you're not done. I mean, when I saw the trailer, I expected somebody was going to die, so I was like, there's just going to be one death. But when you actually watching, you see multiple deaths. It's like, this is kind of insane. And you probably, like, if you don't know if it's a true story or not, you kind of think, you got to think, man, maybe this is fake or this is made up, or maybe they're just adding stuff. But it's just like, nah, this stuff like actually happened, and it was so much, and it was worse than we actually saw in the movie, and in real life. And so it's just like, man, it's just crazy. But no, I loved it too. I thought it was a great movie. Sean Durkin, I think his track record, he hasn't done a ton of movies, like a ton of big projects, and so I think this is his first really big project. But I think he did a really, really good job with, I think, how big the story is, and you have to condense it in an amount of time, and you have to make it flow, and make it, translate well to the screen and for audiences to react and to respond to it. And I thought he did a great job. But yeah, tough film. But yeah, A24 and Zac, that combination, mostly the A24. I'm really surprised about Zac Efron. I was gonna wait for this question, but we can go into it right now. Like, what did we think about Zac Efron? Like, man,
Dude, he was incredible. His acting. I mean, I can't remember. I think I read it, but how long did he train for this movie? Do you guys know? I think I read it, but I can't remember what it was.
I know. What's his name? Is it Jeremy? Yeah, Jeremy Allen White. He said he only trained like 3 months, but I think Zac knew about it longer than he did.
They said it was intense though.
Yeah, it was very intense from what he described. They kind of went through like a whole combine, you could say, of learning how to wrestle. And
yeah. Well, I'll just start with that. I mean, that alone. I mean, the acting was incredible from Zac, but the moves that he was doing were. I mean, you could tell the amount of work that he put into that. I mean, it was something that I have not really, to that extent, seen an actor. I mean, I've seen other actors go pretty far, but I mean, he really kind of took it to the max. I don't know if I've ever seen an actor go that far in terms of like wrestling moves. I guess it's kind of similar to boxing movies, in terms of the way that they prepare and the moves that they have to learn. So I would probably put it in that kind of genre. So you can throw Sylvester in there and Michael B. Jordan in terms of the similar type of prep. But man, that was just as impressive in that kind of area, if not more, due to the acrobatics that Zac had to learn and all that stuff that you don't get in the boxing. So that was great. And then of course his acting was incredible. His body was kind of blew me away, because we've kind of always known Zac as a little bit of his skin. I mean, he's always been kind of, but he's skinnier, but man, he was, holy crap. I mean, he was ripped in that movie. That kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah, and I think too, the fact that, like, it's one thing to learn how to fall properly, and then it's a whole other thing on how to tumble and run into guys.
Yep.
And that part was just so impressive to me.
That was.
And I know people like I think this movie makes you think a little bit more about like WWE and all these other wrestling entertainment spaces, because like, yeah, I'm sure it's, a lot of it's fake and it's constructed, but it's just like, there's the attention to detail. It's like, it's hard. I forgot the other movie that I watched. It was about a female wrestler. It was a real story. And it was about her making it into the WWE, but it's like, man, like, there's so much that goes into that process and to selling the moves, selling the fight, selling like the whole story and everything. And it's just like, man, when you watch that movie, I feel like I appreciated that a lot more, because I'm like, man, they're acting, as wrestlers who in real life they act too. Like wrestlers act in a sense. They got to portray a story or a situation or whatever. And so, yeah, it was crazy just to see, like, man, there's the level of detail and intentionality that Zac was in with the role, and like Jeremy Allen White and like the rest of the cast, like with these wrestling moves. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm curious how much of that was stunt doubles and how much of that was actually them. To me, it looked like a lot of it was actually, them. So
Yep.
props to him and the other actors for sticking in there.
Yep.
Yeah, this is random, but I was rewatching. I'm rewatching the Jurassic World movies, and I was watching the bonus features on a DVD, and it was Chris Pratt talking about his prep for these movies because he had to do quite a bit of running and a little bit of tumbling, and like he's talking about the one stunt he actually did was just him doing a barrel roll outside of a truck, and how it took him, I forget how many takes he said, but it was like 15 takes it took him to finally get this. And that movie, I think Zac did that exact move, if it was him, like 13 times. Imagine like doing that scene. The one that Chris Pratt said was the hardest for him to do, they were doing like multiple times in movies. So I'm way more impressed by that stuff now than I was before. And like I never understood the appeal to the wrestling stuff, because I'm like, yeah, it is scripted. Yeah. But they had me in it. Like when I'm watching this movie and like you're kind of behind the curtain, but I'm still like, yeah, how is this gonna play out? I can kind of get why people get into it, because even if it is scripted, you still don't know how it's gonna end. Like, right? It's as if a new movie's coming out and you're like, yeah, that's fake. Like obviously they acted and there was a script, but you don't know how it's ending. It's like I kind of get it now. I never before did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Same exact way. I've never been to wrestling, but it definitely gave me a newfound respect for it after watching this movie.
Yep. Can't say enough. Also, while we're even on a Zac Efron subject, boys, I'm disappointed. I don't think Zac is getting that nomination on Tuesday.
I'm just gonna say
Oscar noms come out on Tuesday. He's got no traction this award season.
Was it because it was too late of a release? Is that why?
I think possibly. I also don't think A24. I don't think they did a very good job of getting the movie out there, campaigning it and stuff like that. And this, I mean, granted, I think this is going to be a stacked year. You got Cillian Murphy, you got Bradley, you got Paul Giamatti. Like, I think this is a stacked year, like across the board for Steph. But like, dang, I really want. Like, if there's any surprises on Tuesday, I want it to be that Zac is getting that nom. Like, it's just so good. Like, it's like, I feel like Zac has come a long way. Like, I was looking at his filmography. Like, he's come a long way from like doing like Greatest Showman. I mean, I go even farther back than that. Like from High School Musical, 1, 2, and 3, to doing The Greatest Showman, to doing like Hairspray, 17 Again, Baywatch, The Neighbors 1 and 2, like Dirty Grandpa. Like, he's doing all this stuff, and I think this role right here, I think it just pushed him further into, I think, where he can really go as an actor. Like, he's finally found his groove. And like, I mean, if he really wanted to, he could probably go back and do some comedy stuff and it'd be cool. But I feel like right now, like, this movie is just like, it puts him in that perfect route to keep doing, maybe not always serious and dramatic roles, but like, he can be taken seriously as an actor.
I'm a huge fan of him because in 2014, when Neighbors came out, and then I watched That Awkward Moment, which is a random rom-com he was in. Okay. And I was that's when I worked at Family Video, and I watched those two.
That's you, dude.
Dude, best job ever. But I was never a fan of him before I watched those two movies, and I was like, no, this guy's like, I like him as an actor. Yeah. And then I think it was the, what is it called? Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile.
Yes.
That's when I was like, okay, this guy really has range. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Is that Ted Bundy, right?
yes, I want to say it's Ted Bundy. Yep.
I need to watch that. I remember when that day came out, people were like, "Oh, this is like legit."
Oh, it's good. There was a lot of conversation about that movie because they're like, why did they make Ted Bundy so attractive?
Mm.
But I get that, but it's a
I
movie.
remember
What
that.
do you want?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I'm truly happy for this dude because if you think about it too, veering off subject just a little bit, but like if you think about it, like a lot of these actors that get started off on like the Disney channels, the Nickelodeons, a lot of them don't have a career afterwards.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's cool to see like somebody like him. I don't know if there's anybody else. Zendaya, yes. There we go. I feel like there's somebody else too I'm missing, but
Oh yeah, there's a couple others.
I mean, Selena's cool. She's doing stuff. I don't think she's acting wise. Like, she's not as
I mean, she's
good.
doing
I wouldn't put her in a.
Only Murders in the Building. She's in that one. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
more of a TV show.
But even then, I'm like disappointed with her. That's a whole nother story. I'm disappointed with her acting in that because I feel like she acts way better in Wizards of Waverly Place, a freaking Disney Channel show. That's another topic. It's another story. I love Selena. I love you, Selena. I love you. But yeah, I like it. I think it's cool that he was able to start like at this Disney Channel and he was able to come out and find his way into like a career now. Like it took time, obviously, but now he's finally, found his flow because not everybody is given that shot to find their flow after they've done like Disney Channel or Nickelodeon or stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, what do you guys think about how the movie portrays like the fatherhood and the brotherhood aspect? Like, we could start with the fatherhood since it's kind of like a two-parter question. But what do you guys think about like the fatherhood aspect, which is a really tough aspect of the movie? It was hard.
Yeah. I'll let Jayden tackle that.
Yeah, I can start. Well, the one thing I was thinking about from the jump is that tagline that they had at the beginning, that dad wanted to protect us with toughness, mom wanted to protect us with God. But what's interesting is the way that boys' view of God develops is through their father. So it's interesting how, in a sense, she's still pointing them back to like that figure. And so you can kind of see where the cycle goes. And there wasn't much of a heavy emphasis on the fact that they were Christians. I was actually surprised by how much they left out of that they were very involved.
Is it like in the real story? Is it like deep faith?
Yeah, like they were really involved in their church, and
wow,
like they were in all the stuff, and they were known as like your Texas Bible believing kind of family.
Yeah.
Okay. And they shadow over that a little bit, but it's just so interesting that their view of God, you can kind of see how it probably I don't want to totally blame their dad for this, but the one suicide, you can imagine like as you're contemplating life and like how God might view me, he's still viewing that from the lens of how does dad view me and where does my worth come from? It comes from what I can do on the wrestling pitch or whatever the frick they call it. So it just shows the power that fathers do have in how they influence their children and just their view of what they think of themselves. And I was thinking about that the whole time because I have a daughter. I don't have a son yet.
I was about to go there. Just about to go there.
Yeah. And so it felt a little different. Like I feel like I would feel different if I had a son right now, but I have considered that. Like how am I going to address some of this stuff? Because I want to have the nice balance between like I really want to push my son to be like a hard worker. I want to be high character. But I don't want to be to the extreme where I'm trying to make him be what I couldn't be. Because all of us have our dreams that we didn't meet up to. Right. I know I'm not going to force my son to play basketball. That's something I really like to do. Yeah. I'm not going to force him to do stuff like that, but I'm going to challenge him and be high challenge. But I don't want to be to the point where they think that to earn my respect or to earn any worth, they have to do something to impress me. I don't ever want my kids to think that. I want them to know that I love them regardless of what they do.
Yep.
Well, as soon as he started talking about like the rankings, like it can, he was like, oh,
Yeah.
it can, the rankings can always change. I'm like, oh, this is
That's
gonna be.
nuts.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I was like, wow, this is gonna be a tough movie because that is not a good precedent. It was like right from the jump.
I
That's a
shouldn't
real.
laugh, but that was kind of funny. The rankings
a
can
real
always
quote.
change.
Yeah.
That is
Like,
a real
oh.
quote. Kevin Von Erich confirmed like that. That was something he actually did say.
And what's so interesting is I remember in the movie, Zach tried to help out, or Zach's character, Kevin. He tried to help out the one brother who was
Michael.
getting Michael, yes, who was getting the most flack from his father because he was not really that built. He had an interest in music, not wrestling, and so he went to his mom, like, Mom, like, Dad's too hard on him. Like, can you help out? And she was like, you guys work it out. Like so that part of it threw me for a loop too. It was like, Mom, you need to like step in there and you know what I mean, be a mother in that situation. And I feel like she kind of fell short too. I mean, I don't know her side of things in real life. I'm just talking about the movie that aspect of it, but that kind of was also really sort of emotional for me because I was like, man, mothers should be stepping in those situations and kind of keeping the father in check a little bit. But that was crazy too. I remember that was one scene that really pointed out to me as well.
And I think she regretted that too, especially when Michael committed suicide. It was like, we are doing this again, right? It's like, we're doing this again. And she was looking at that black dress and she was just like, I can't do it. And it was like, I think, like, whether that's portrayed well or not, part of me thinks it's like mentally, it's like, man, it's just like she knows she should have did something. She should have stepped in. And because she didn't step in and have any say, like, it's just like, this is what happened. But yeah, like the fatherhood aspect, it's kind of scary. It makes me appreciate my dad. It makes me appreciate what kind of person that he was. Like, my dad, he didn't grow up having his father around. So I feel like there was ample opportunity for him to like not be a great father. But the Lord saw fit different. The Lord saw it differently, and he became a great father. And it makes me like, dang, it makes me appreciate my dad and like what it also means to be a father. And Jadon, like you were saying, like when I get to that point to having kids, it's like, okay, how do I find that balance on where to push the kid? Where to push them, but not push them too hard to the point where it becomes abuse. It becomes mental abuse. And like, I bet there was probably some physical abuse in real life. But like to the point where it becomes like unhealthy, and which portrays like when it comes to being a father, for me, it'd be like, oh, I'm not a great father because of, I'm pushing them too much and being very unhealthy in that. So yeah, the fatherhood aspect it's just interesting. It's so interesting. Like, he was just living through them and wanting them to succeed. And it took Kevin so long just to get to a point to be like, yeah, I'm just done with this, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna let it go.
I agree that the real Kevin, he did say, at least the article I was reading, that the movie did portray the father a little bit more extreme than it actually was in real life. I did read that. He did say he was kind of he didn't like that much of it in that aspect.
Yeah,
because he basically said, like, my father was an honorable man, like, he did love us.
Yeah,
it wasn't quite to the extent that the movie portrayed. It was just really it was very unfortunate circumstances. But I'm sure that there was abuse going on. I'm sure that there was some of what the movie portrayed definitely played a role in terms of the competitiveness between the brothers, and there was definitely some misparenting going on. I feel like that. I mean, you don't have five out of 6 sons commit suicide for just randomness. So
yeah,
but that's what the real Kevin said. So I'm not sure if he was protecting his father's name, which probably might be an aspect there, or I think again, it's a movie, so it definitely probably portrayed it more extreme than it actually was, as all movies tend to do. But
And
I
you
thought
would
I'd
have
note
to
that.
you'd have to think too, like, and since they're in to some degree a competitive sport, and they had a lot of highs, so there had to be a level of warmth as those guys were achieving things. Like I'm sure he was stoked about that. So I can only imagine they probably had celebratory dinners or meals or something like that, and they just didn't show any of that.
There was also drugs involved too, so you have
Yeah.
to throw that into the mix. There was definitely drugs at play, which the movie kind of tapped into a little bit.
When he was throwing up.
But there was definitely some of that stuff going on that probably did not help the mental side of things
No.
or physical.
Right. What do we think about the brotherhood aspect?
That line at the end, I'm gonna misquote him, but when Zac Efron says like "I used to be a brother," I almost lost it. Like, I didn't cry at any movies in 2023, but that was one that got me the closest to like actual tears. And that last scene, like, it had me thinking about my own brothers. I love those guys, and I wouldn't even say we're as close as those guys seemed in the movie. But it does make you think about how powerful it can be to have people that are in the same space as you with very similar experiences, life experiences, very similar relationships. There's just another level of connection that if you don't have brothers, you just can't understand.
Yeah.
And the closest you can get to it is like being on a sports team and being those guys feel like brothers to some degree. But yeah, the movie does hit it really well. Like the way that brothers would interact with each other. It felt like Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen, those guys, like they felt like brothers, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I loved how they kind of came around the one brother that was not really wrestling, not physical.
Mm-hmm.
He was music based. You know what I mean? I loved how they rallied around him when the father was so hard on him, but they went to the one concert that he had, like the house party. Snuck him out when his parents said no, and I really love that aspect. You could tell that really, I think, spoke to me the most in terms of the love that they had for each other. Was like they didn't care that he was different. Like they were there for him. They wanted him to succeed in his own way. It's just unfortunate that they lived in a highly competitive situation where it just didn't allow that brother to grow and flourish into what he wanted to become. Like one can only imagine where he would have gone had he been in a different setting, a different house setting. So that was really heartbreaking for me to watch because they loved what he was, and the whole atmosphere kind of destroyed him.
And that stuck out to me too because my older brother was musically inclined, and then me and my younger brother were sports kids. And my dad growing up was both. So he played sports, but he also was in show choir and he was singing at church and all that. Yeah. So it did make me appreciate. I'm like, I love that I had a dad where it didn't matter what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like he was in our wheelhouse. And so I do love that about my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and great points by both of you. I also think like just because this aspect was just portrayed so well and the closeness, it makes it that much worse when you go through the tragedy. You're like, they're losing a brother, and you see it break Kevin. Like you see it break him. Like each tragedy is just like,
almost
man,
into his marriage,
almost into his marriage, and he said that to his wife. He was like, before they were married, he was like, hey, like we believe like I believe like our name is cursed or whatever. And then you see him in the movie, he changes his last name because he was just, all this tragedy started happening. He was just like, I kind of need to separate as much as I can from that name. But it's, the closeness between all of them is just, it's crazy, but it's just so tragic just to watch it, how it all unfolds. It's crazy.
They didn't show it in the movie, but in real life, they did. The husband and wife, father and mother, they did end up divorcing.
Okay.
They did end up divorcing.
Did it say for how long?
Well, I think it wasn't too much longer after like the last son had died. I think it was maybe like late 80s, I think is what the year was. I'd have to look it up. But
Yeah.
the father died maybe just a few years after that. I think it was lung cancer is what I read.
Dang.
Yeah.
And then didn't the mother and father, didn't they split too?
That's what I just said. Yeah, the mother and father. Yeah, that's what I was
Oh, that's
talking
what you're saying. I
about.
thought you were talking about Kevin.
No, they're
Yeah,
still
okay.
together.
Yeah,
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 they're still
okay.
together.
Okay. Yeah. That's rough. Yeah. Dang. Crazy. What do you guys think about like rewatch value? As hard as the movie was, does it have like it's good, but does it have rewatch value to the point where you're like, I can go pop that on?
Yeah, I'd watch it again. I think the acting and just the wrestling like move aspect of it and all of the action involved in there and the acrobatics involved there, that is enough for me to do a rewatch. Obviously, it's a really tough watch in terms of the death, but and the tragedy, but you know, a lot of the movie is really cool to watch. Honestly, a lot of the action sequences and the way that they do stuff that to me is worth the rewatch.
I'm the worst person to ask this question because there's only a very small number of movies I like to rewatch. I'm not much of a rewatcher. But what I will say is once that movie ended, I thought to myself, like, this is a classic. Like, this is a timepiece. The way that it's shot, I think in 30 years you could pop this movie on and it is still gonna feel like a great movie. So I would agree. This is a movie. I know a movie's good if I immediately think like I need to sit down with multiple people and make them watch this movie. I rarely get like that, but I'm like, I got to go make my brothers and my dad watch this. Like, that was my immediate thought. So, yes, I think this has a lot of rewatch value. But I really don't think it's one of those movies that you would just throw on and like hang out and have conversations. Like, my wife does a lot of those movies where she'll put on 27 dresses and they're not actually watching it, it's just on. So, I don't think it has any of that kind of rewatch value, but it's one of those where, like, maybe a year or two later, and you think, remember Iron Claw? That movie was really good. You throw it on and just relive the timepiece that you were in before when you were watching it the first time. What do you think, Mike?
I agree. I think it's a doses. It's one of those when you're like, you got to take it in doses just because it is tough and there is a lot to it. I could watch it again, but it'll be doses. Probably like but me and Jared, we went to see this. We saw it in December, I think.
Yeah, we saw it in December.
I probably wouldn't be able to watch it again until maybe next December,
Yeah,
like
a year later.
Because I already know I'm already going into it. I'm like, I gotta go through this. I gotta go through this again. Just gotta go through this again. So I think it's a doses type thing. I think though this is a movie that I think I would purchase and I'd have it on the shelf.
Same.
Yep. It's if I ever taught a class, I could see this being on the syllabus.
Oh heck yeah.
Yep.
There's a handful of classes you could use this one for.
Oh yeah. I don't know if Sean Durkin has anything else lined up. I haven't heard anything yet, but I do think that after watching this, it makes me expect a lot of greatness for him going forward, and him being able to get more projects and more big projects. Because I feel like he's a great filmmaker for sure.
Yeah,
great filmmaker.
It's crazy. That's only his third non-short film.
Right.
That's wild to me.
Right. Yep. And I guarantee. What'd you say?
He looks like a veteran out there with the way that he shot the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing some stuff this year of him getting more opportunities because pretty good work by Sean Durkin. Pretty good work.
Side note, what did you guys think of that scene where it was like the when Carrie had died and he met his brothers in kind of like an afterlife aspect?
Oh yeah.
Would you guys? I thought that was, I don't know, that was that was the one scene in the movie where I was kind of mixed on. I don't know. It was I didn't know what to think about that. I was curious what you guys thought about that scene.
It felt like an add-in. Like That felt like a creative choice more than like
Mhm.
something that Kevin Von Erich would have said to throw in there. And
Right.
that's where
Right.
I honestly wasn't shocked based on the way they had treated their church involvement to that point. There was kind of that like almost like the stereotypical mysticism of what happens when you die, that you're going to see your loved ones.
Yeah.
Most people who have Christian theology know that nobody's sitting in heaven waiting for you. Like they're glorifying God on their own. So that part of
Right.
it is just theologically wrong. But you could say it's cutesy for a movie like that, I guess.
Mhm.
But it almost in a way kind of glorifies suicide in the wrong way. That says, hey, you kill yourself, you get to see the people that you wish you could because they're dead.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
just not
that was the
how
part
it
of it
works.
that I was mixed on. Right, that was the part of it.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
like, that was like, it was a really heartfelt scene, and I thought that, like, initially I was like, oh man, this is a really beautiful scene, but then it was that aspect of it where I was like, well, like, they just committed suicide. That's, like you said, Jaden, it's not
Yeah.
how it works. So I don't know, but that's kind of what the general human kind of, like you said, mysticism of that is portraying, I guess, from the human perspective. Oh, we're gonna see our loved ones, that kind of thing. But
I thought if it would have been a dream sequence, I think it would have landed way better.
yes,
Without-
that's a great point.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was, yeah.
Like from Kevin's, Kevin's head.
Yeah, if it would have been one of them like having a dream and instead of killing himself, he ended up keep going because his brothers encouraged him. Like,
Yep.
obviously that's not what really happened in real life,
Right,
but
right,
for
right,
a
right.
movie that would have made a little sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting. All right. Any last thoughts on the Iron Claw, boys? Any last thoughts?
The one random thing we didn't get to talk about was the relationship Kevin Von Erich had, which I think was one of the more interesting like romance arcs I've seen in a movie in a long time. And felt like really, it made me think of like my dad grew up in a really small town up in northern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is exactly how some of those dudes would have acted had a woman like approach them like that.
She
Yeah.
was like, she knew what she wanted.
So I did appreciate that. I was like, I'm sure it was pretty accurate to how it actually happened.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they could have made that lame, like by making it tropey.
That was
but
really
they didn't.
compelling.
Yep. It was interesting.
Mm.
Yeah,
and it
that
was like all of this chaos and like craziness and tragedy was happening, but then there was this beautiful relationship between Kevin and I bet you if that was the one thing that Kevin had a lot of input on, it was probably that. That's probably if there was one thing that was it in terms of what he wanted to be portrayed accurately. At least I would like to think so.
Yeah.
He did say that he made sure that I think he said three things. He was like, make sure everyone knows how much me and my brothers loved each other and how close me and my family were. Like, make sure that is known. So yeah, you're probably right. He probably made sure that got right.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Jared, any last thoughts?
No, just other than that, I think that it was a lesson in terms of fatherhood. It was a lesson in terms of family and loving each other. So that was huge for me in regards to that. But just from the acting perspective, I thought it was great, and I'm really excited to see what the people in the movie do. Because I feel like Zach's moving into his area. I'm excited to see him continue to grow, and then for the other brothers that I haven't seen a lot from. They were really good. I'm excited to see what they also do in movies coming up here, because they were all super great, especially Jeremy Allen White. He was really, really good. So I'm excited to see what they do.
I do have to admit, I don't know if you guys have probably seen movie 43. I have you guys seen that movie?
No.
Okay, go.
Okay.
Put that on your list because Jeremy Allen White has a bit in there, and it is so wild and so funny. And I was nervous going into this movie. I'm like, am I just going to view him as the guy from that bit? Essentially, it's he's homeschooled, and his parents want to give him the real high school experience. So they do a lot of weird stuff like bullying him and stuff, and he just acts like a total dweeb. But he knocks it out.
It's cool.
Have y'all seen The Bear?
I haven't yet.
Put that on your to-do list.
I keep hearing it's good.
I knew what Jeremy Allen White was going to do in this because of The Bear. I know he was on the other stuff before this, but like I knew what I was getting. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, he was an underrated person for me. Outside of so excited to see what he does.
Yep. My thoughts: go see it. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you need something to go see the Iron Claw. Go see the Iron Claw. Go see the Iron Claw.
Prepare the tissues.
Yes, exactly. prepare the tissues. Prepare yourself. But even as it is a tough movie to watch, it's still a great movie. It's a great movie to watch. Mm-hmm. Boys, Jared, Jadon, thank you for getting on the real table. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your Saturday, your lovely Saturday, to get on here. I appreciate it. I really do.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no
Thanks,
problem.
bro.
No problem. I'm sure y'all both will be on here again. We'll see y'all soon on the Real Table Podcast. As for everybody else, stay tuned for more content. Oscar noms. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy. Y'all stay safe. Y'all be easy. Peace. Thank y'all again for joining me today on the Real Table. Make sure you follow and share this podcast with anybody that loves movies or somebody that wants to just know more about the movie culture. Thank you so much once again. You can also follow me on Instagram at The Real Table Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at The Real Table. Once again, thank y'all so much. I'll see y'all soon.